Gabriel's Gospel Grace, changing lives and kingdom building one stone at a time.
Good evening to you, and welcome for our second edition of Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday. It's our couples day. So we're going to continue moving forward now with our couple guests, all of whom are Christians and married. And that's exactly what this program's about. It's about looking at celebrating marriage and also learning some tips and tricks on how to negotiate our marriages as Christians. So our guests for this week are slightly unique in the fact that they're not too long married. So these are our most recently married couple. So instead of wasting any time, let me bring them straight in. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll introduce you to the MacGillivrays. Hello there.
Hello.
Good to see you both.
And you.
Now, for our viewers, thank you very much. It's been this glorious sunny weather. In fact, today's actually a little bit cooler and the lighting's better. So that's good for our broadcast even. Now, just for the viewer's point of view, I should point out that they're actually contacting us, and we're streaming live from the Isle of Lewis. And when we did a test run yesterday, we actually found there were some problems, partially due to a thunderstorm. So if we do lose them halfway through, bear with us. Now, what I'd like to do with all our guests is get you to introduce each other to our audience. So, ladies first.
Yeah, so this is Andy McGillivray. He's my husband.
And this is Kirsty McGillivray, my wife.
Well, great to meet you both as a couple. So the first question I've got for you both is, was it a love at first sight scenario? Have you known each other for years? Did you find yourself on an app, internet dating? How did you guys come together?
You threw it to me straight away. I met Andy in church not too many years ago, which is always the best place to start meeting someone, I think.
Okay.
Love at first sight? I don't know. He was quite shady. Intrigued at first sight more than anything.
Andy, I give you an opportunity to rebut those comments.
Yeah, I think I've heard them too often. Yeah. Yeah, it was. I started going to. Are we okay?
Yeah, keep going, see.
Okay. I started going to a new church up here, up in the island when I moved up, NewWine Church, and there was lots of people there. One of them was Kirsty, and we neither of us were looking for a relationship as such, but we really came together in a friends, brother and sister kind of fashion, over the word, questions,
Lots.
doubts, just delving into the word, discovering it, and that was a passion and a zeal for both of us, and that's where we kind of began to gel, I suppose, more.
Yeah, so Andy was brand new to it all and had plenty of questions, didn't you see?
Mm-hmm.
I think I kind of picked up on that. This guy needs a little bit of help. So I think I gave you my number. And we started kind of WhatsApp back and forward, lots of questions, lots of really very late night kind of conversations that were all very challenging and quite long-winded.
So this was all theology related.
But yeah, around the word. Mostly. Yeah.
And were you both in a position of looking for relationships at that time, or is it something you were looking for, or entertaining?
No.
I mean, I'd been around church culture forever, so I had to. I'm in my 30s, so getting to the point where you're kind of losing hope that anything's going to happen, really. No, but in my teens, I'd basically said to the Lord that I'm happy remaining single if that's what you want, and I don't want it to be a driving thing for me to be just amongst his people to go and find a husband for myself, and want to be who I am in him, you know. Quite happy to remain single and be the complete me in Jesus, because we can be. So wasn't really looking for anything, but I guess I'm always open.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Andy?
And I'd been married previously. I've got 3 children from another relationship who don't live on the island, but I see them in the holidays. And I was well, I have to have been married, and obviously things fall apart, and life goes the way life goes. I wasn't bothered at all about not marriage, but a relationship at all. Just focus on myself. I had plenty to focus on, like, you know, there's things in everybody's life, and when I saw my kids, to focus on them. So that was my kind of plan, relationship wise.
You see, I find that fascinating, just an observation, but if you saw the couple last week, John and Leslie, what was fascinating is John kind of, their relationship started with them both having quite unique identities. And it's like by coming together, the Lord changed that. So the fact that both of you, you know, it sounds like Kirsty kind of put herself on the shelf. Andy says, well, actually, I'm just going to prioritise on my kids. I've not really got space and time to entertain changing my lifestyle and trying to juggle these things. But coming together, interesting while you're both searching the word, it's like your identity started to shift. And that's what we're talking on Monday. And I think, Kirsty, you're coming back to do our Theology Thursday on identity. So I just, it's just an observation that clearly both of you came in with a particular perspective for yourselves. And actually, there was a transformation of who you are. Because even now, I know you as Kirsty and Andy and Kirsty. You know, you have a new group identity, and that's fascinating. So hearing of you guys when you were kind of single, that's very unique for me. Because it's like, but that's not how I see you guys now. So from that point forward, then, when was it you kind of both felt that actually this is now going somewhere?
I have to say, first of all, about the change of identity and you know, the questions we had. I think when you know the Lord, that stuff kind of happens, and you might not actually be expecting it at all.
Yeah.
But He works things together for good, doesn't He? And we don't even realize it's good. But to answer, I probably can't answer that question. You just. I
think that was a text message.
Was there a moment? I mean, obviously I'm going to say you were obviously growing together, but was there a moment when you kind of looked at each other and said, you know what, I think you and I are going to spend our lives together and we're going to make this commitment under God? Do you remember that sort of day or that how that moment happened to you? Because obviously with Leslie and John, there was this sort of moment when she was told by the Lord that this is your project and this is your husband. Did you have anything like that for the pair of you?
The Lord didn't tell me.
No.
I did not like that anyway. Everything moved quite. I think we were very cautious or careful, if you like, in embarking on a relationship for many factors. But I think there was a particular message WhatsApp where it was kind of like Andy saying, I think I really like you.
Oh yeah.
Which absolutely floored me, because I'm like, you know, what me kind of situation, because like you said, probably had put myself on the shelf somewhat.
Wow.
But yeah, it was a
yeah, I'm trying to remember that now. Yeah.
Bit of a slow navigation.
So again, not wanting to go too biblical here, but clearly Andy took the leap of faith. And I'm sure that was an awkward moment when you think to yourself, do I reveal my feelings or do I withhold it? And I suppose, I mean, even the guy we had on the Favourite Friday this week, his words of wisdom, I see is coming from the Lord. He said, if you don't ask, the answer will always be no. So there is this kind of stepping out the boat moment for you, Andy.
I mean, we're, no matter what age you are, I think if there's something that needs to be or should be said, it should be said. And if somebody doesn't feel the same or somebody gets offended, you were just being honest and truthful. So leap of faith, I mean, yes, but as you say, you don't try, you don't get. You can't complain that God doesn't bless you if you never talk to him, never pray, never ask him for anything for not only yourself but for others. I mean, you have to open it to find out the answer. So yeah, and the end of, I mean, if you've from my perspective, if you've got feelings for somebody and you're spending time with them and then you don't tell them, well, that's false pretenses.
Yeah.
And if I want to be black and white, which I can be very easily, as far as I'm concerned, that's lying to the person. You know what I mean?
I think we were both pretty aware that there was more to it than just getting together.
But the time comes when you have to show your hand, don't you? And that's the thing. The minute you show your hand is when it's going to go one way or another. But clearly, you had the faith to do it, and it obviously it led you on the next stage. So, I mean, I know that you both.
Sorry, Gabe.
I'm going to say I know that you're both very active with your church. Has that been a fundamental for building the foundations for your relationship and marriage?
Well, in the beginning, yes, and as we said, that brought us together. But when I sent a text, that would have been 2019. Well, at the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, I got a bit ill for a while, and of course the COVID then kicked off. And anyway, I was kind of ill, and Kirsty and I would have dinner and that together anyway. We had started having dinner some nights a week. So then, after I got ill, I mean the best way to put it is I was kind of useless. So we started spending. Kirsty works full time, but after her work, we'd start spending almost and then becoming every day together. After Kirsty's work at some point, sometimes she'd be here straight from work and we'd have dinner and she'd go home, but we started spending a lot more time together. And of course there was all that COVID and things were closed and that anyway, so we really grew at that point. And of course we had known at that point that there was feelings involved, at least, so it could blossom. It was kind of make or break, I suppose, because I was at some points I was at some of the worst that I've been for years, and Kirsty accepted and saw and continued to be here, continued to grow in relationship and love, and so I think, that's a good time. Yes, especially when you're cocooned in a place together. We weren't I've been in prison, right? That's got nothing to do with this, but I know it's like having cell fever and being cocooned in with people. That's quite different, but still, the fact remains. That was good for us in respect.
Yeah, but back to the question, being church and how much that's the foundation. Like, church is the foundation.
Yes.
For my life. Like, even being on Lewis and being a part of the church where I am, I believe the Lord's called me to that. There's certain things that I do as part of the church there that I think the Lord has for me in that place. So, but as a our relationship was growing. Of course, those things are kind of challenged,
Yeah.
in that, like, Christian culture, especially around marriage, is quite difficult to navigate. You know, there's things like, Andy was married before, he's been divorced. Where do I stand on that? Things like, don't be unequally yoked, the word talks about. And that's often presented like an unbeliever with a believer, but can also be presented as one believer with another believer who don't quite have the same mindsets or attitudes. And so navigating our relationship, which was around the word, but a lot of kind of questions and answers, and sometimes some quite well, not say arguments, but very passionate conversations about what the word says and what it means. So that, you know, when we're coming to the place where actually, are we in a relationship, is this going forward, that challenged a lot of those things where I'm like, right, I need to personally decide or understand or get even God's heart on this relationship. Is it of him or isn't it of him? And we were slow and prayerful over that. And even kind of putting the brakes on now and again to kind of reassess, if you like, or go, especially from me, going, hold on a minute, let me stop, let me think, let me take this to the Lord again. And then we can pick it up again. But during COVID, you know, that you're isolated, bubbles, all my family were moved away by that point. So I was by myself really in the house for the first time ever. You know, having all this freedom and then having nobody to spend it with would have been an awful lot. It would have been a hardship, but I think Andy was a bit of a lifeline to me in that, and I believe the Lord brought us together in that sense.
We're going to say one of the themes of the week is identity. I just find it interesting that obviously while you're wrestling, I think is a good way. You're wrestling with yourselves and your own identities, and then you're wrestling with being a couple, and you were working your way through that, which I think is always a good thing. I mean, that's what makes a robust, is when you've challenged yourself from everywhere, ironed out the flaws, recognized the strengths, and then you find that middle ground. But even though you're doing all that within yourselves, identity is impacted by external thoughts, opinions, and views. That often is what's reflected back at us. Now, the way you just described yourselves from a viewer's perspective, and I'm sure many of us are thinking exactly what I'm about to say, it was almost like the sinner and the saint. I mean, your backgrounds are really quite contrasting. So obviously that's the stuff that you were wrestling about, but did you get much in the way of judgment and sort of people passing opinions from outside? And if so, how did you deal with that? How did you take that on board?
I mean, there's one, you know, we've both been quite clear that we're slow and prayerful. There's one person whose thoughts, whose words, whose love and whose judgment matters, and that is Jesus Christ. I mean, people's judgments, they can stew in them, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, to delve a little bit, I've been in the gutter, man, and in public places, I've been absolutely in the gutter. And I didn't even care about my family's judgments then. And, you know, people were broken, eh? So, you know, their judgments, okay. They, you know, God bless them. See how well they do with them. That's about it for me.
Yeah. But I've never known Andy before he knew the Lord, which is really, I've only known the best Andy can be.
Well, hopefully not yet.
So far, so far.
I mean, I'm touching on it in the identity conversation we'll have. That everything before knowing Jesus is dead and finished.
Yeah.
That's old creation life. New creation life is wholly different. It's with Jesus. So as far as if God doesn't hold Andy's past or my past against me, or whatever that is, or your past, then what right would I have to hold his past against him, and vice versa, or anybody else for that matter, because it's forgiven and it's gone.
And I think that's what's encouraging, because I know you as a team. I know you preach as a team. I know you work very well as a team. But like I say, for people to see this, and I'm sure others have been in this scenario where they do meet someone and they do love them, but the condemnation of friends and family. I mean, if you remember, even Leslie said that her friends said, no, this is not the man. But she had faith. She had that knowing in her knower, as she said. Now, with you two, what I love about the fact in this testimony you're sharing is the fact that, especially Andy, it's like, well, you know what? I know what I did, and the Lord knows what I did, and he's forgiven me. And as for what the world thinks, that's not the foundation I stand on. You can have 8 billion people in the world, and their opinion doesn't mean anything, because the only opinion that counts here is me, Kirsty, and above all, the Lord. And I think that's so encouraging and inspiring for people watching this, because even more so, many of the couples that will watch this are possibly thinking of taking that more traditional style Christian matrimonial bliss scenario to heart, knowing that their family would think nothing more than a ceremony and a cake. And that's the challenges they're going to face. And yet, if you guys are kind of exemplifying just how two people on almost polar opposites, I mean, as Kirsty will know, many Christians would have said, oh, we're all about preaching and sharing the love of the Lord to people. But if they'd have seen you in the street, Andy, as you say, in the gutter, they would have crossed and walked the other way. We know this. We know plenty of Christians like this.
Yeah. And
I think that's what's beautiful about all of this. Kirsty's not even seeing that. And I'm sure when you're sharing the story with her, like Jesus, even if she saw that character, she sees what Jesus sees, which is the perfected version of you.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly, I know Kirsty's kind of, the kind of on the shelf thing, but I think that's exactly what you see in Kirsty. It's the fact that other women, they can flaunt themselves, they can have careers, and all these things are encouraged to do today. But actually, none of them things are of any value. What is of value is the person you see before you is exactly the person the Lord wants in your life.
Yeah, I mean, and that's funny because, I can accept that people can judge me, or, that people could have judged Kirsty for involving herself with me. But the funny thing is that people from my past can do the same about Kirsty, because, you could easily say, oh, Kirsty's
Do good in Christian.
I've always said to my kids, if somebody's ever that nice, then they're lying and they're not that nice. And then I met Kirsty and I was like, she's the first one.
She's real. If she's real, Jesus is too.
And the poor kids were completely bemused, weren't they?
Even still, the poor kids still can't. I'll guarantee you, they're waiting for Kirsty to slip up, because it's always been, people aren't actually decent. People say things, right? We all know people, but then you watch body language or whatever, or you hear something from somebody else, but you find out, oh wait a minute, you're not as perfect as you, but yeah.
And again, it's interesting because I think the problem is what you're describing is, I've been preaching on this myself, is that people are loving from a place of themselves. And I say that, the Lord's first commandment was to love God. The second was to love others. Now, if you love God and you're in that place of relationship, like yourselves, when you first, it was all official, you're all going out with each other and it's all happy, life's a better place. Well, we get that from just loving the Lord, and then we can love others. Whereas I think, like you say, many Christians we meet, those that want to be seen to be doing good works, it's coming from a place of it's not even compassion, it's a place of duty or a sense of obligation. It's not relationship. And like you say, when you love people, I mean, I love people, that's why I love ministry. I love where I'm based at the minute, the people I meet. I love to go out and talk to strangers. People find that hard. They can't understand how can you just approach a stranger? And it's simple. You just love them. And you guys, I think, are exemplifying that. But I think that's what's special about your ministry as you move forward, is the fact that because your foundation comes from this place of love, you know, I'm really looking forward to seeing what the Lord's going to do for you guys, because you're both coming from such a special place, and you both experience that love from each other.
Yeah.
I think what's really interesting is like since we've come together, since we started dating, really, we were able to host Bible classes, like Bible studies together, and we found that we work really well in that. We've got a dynamic that it just fits and it works. And then since we've been married, opportunities like speaking to yourself, other people, those things seem to be springing up all over.
Appearing.
Yeah. And it's like, well, I mean, there was a scripture we had for the wedding that two are better than one, basically, because they get a better reward for their labor. You know, everything's what's the word? It's like supercharged for being in relationship with one another, and seeing that dynamic is really exciting, and really excited from the perspective of, I mean, maybe not ministry from like an official kind of capacity, but ministry is just service. That's ministry. Literally is serving. That's what the word means in the Bible. That's what it is. And so wherever we can serve together, it's going to be synergized. It's going to be energized. It's going to be powerful because God brought us together. In the sense, like, you're kind of encouraged to have a shopping list, if you like. Maybe life. Not as especially a girl in the church, you know, they can't be this, they can't be this, don't look for this, don't look for this, they need to be this, they need to be able to lead you, they need to be able to teach you, they need to be able to, you know, this shopping list. Someone's advice was in my teens was, right now your wedding vows. I'm like, I'm like, oh, my wedding vows, when, like, why, how on earth, when that's a solemn thing that you do with your other half to promise to one another. And we wrote our own vows for the wedding, which I personally agonized over, because like I put such a importance on it, because it's a vow. It isn't a cookie promise, you know. It's not easily made and easily broken. It's something that's saying, this is what I'm going to do for you, and that it's like beyond a contract thing. And really, like the shopping list of a teenager or somebody in the getting on a little bit more or whatever, it's wholly, like, it went out the window a long time ago for me, because I'm like, Lord, if you have somebody for me, you bring them into my life and they'll be just right for me.
And now, he did. Might not. He did just that. Now, before we go on to the final bit about hearing about the future, do you want to just tell our viewers how long it is now that you've been living in wedded bliss?
Right, so 11th of August, 22, so... don't know. About
10 months then. It's June now,
Not even a year. Not even a year yet.
Not even a year.
10 months. Yeah, 10 months. 10 months.
10 months, and it's still going strong. I can see it's still going strong. So from a viewer's point of view, we're gonna almost summarise at the end of this, but I just thought it'd be a great opportunity for you to see what life is, especially as a new married couple on the Isle of Lewis. 3 months ago, just 3 months ago, this is what new life looks like for the MacGillivrays.
Here's our ladies. Feeding time for the ladies. Most of which are in lamb. Gonna have some babies soon. Looking good though. Good and healthy. And Andy's trying to track down the others, which could be basically anywhere as far as that I can see. Although probably not, because they like to stay close enough for food. We're thawing well now. At least the sheep can find a bit of grass underneath it. The sun's quite warm actually when it comes through. We're up to 7-8 degrees today. It's pretty in the snow. So this wee road goes all the way out that way to peat banks. So we cut peat for burning. That is Ben Braga. Ben being hill basically. And there's Andy traipsing the moors looking for a sheep. He should have brought the shepherd's crook couch with him. We've got a fancy stainless steel one which is quite cool. So there you go, some of the sheep, some of the ewes. The rest will be here shortly, hopefully.
So that's just a snapshot of your life out on the Isle, and what a life it is. So what's in store for the coming months?
Yeah, well, have you seen we've got some animals? So we've just got another 3 piglets to add to the menagerie. So lots of. My husband is doing official husbandry.
An official husband.
Official husband. But over summer we're really only just now kind of feet on the ground in our marriage life. It's been a busy few months since August. I've been studying and various things have been happening. So just now we get to have a bit of time to
got some time to grow into married life.
And get established in, you know, where we're going with the croft that you were seeing, what that looks like from a kind of business perspective, I guess, and what ministry does look like and how it feels. The Lord's leading us, what kind of vein, and it's going to show off both our strengths, and we're already seeing, like I said, those opportunities arising. So that's really exciting, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I said that word that we got from lady.
Oh yeah, Andy's.
So we got a prophetic word in this year. At some point. My memory kind of evades me at some point. Anyway, so we got one.
Okay.
And part of it was that we were spiritual signposts.
Yeah.
And things would just happen, and you know, like ministry opportunities would come from here and there, and we'd be signposts to the Lord. So we're as Kirsty's already said, there's a few things. This Kirsty's obviously doing another talk on Thursday, maybe, or something. Yeah, Theology Thursday. There we go. And we may be back again if we're blessed. And there's another couple of Christian couples events we're planning to do, and so we're waiting to be signposted to be signposts. So that's quite good.
I'm going to say one phrase I'm using a lot with all the people I'm interviewing is you're blessed to be a blessing, but in your case, Andy and Kirsty, you're a signpost to be a signpost, which must be a blessing to be a blessing. Well, we've run out of time again, unfortunately, but thank you both for coming on and sharing your testimony, and clearly it's a powerful one, and I know it will inspire others, and I am looking forward to you both coming back again. And obviously Kirsty's joining us on Thursday. Andy, will we see you back on here?
Well, it depends how much of a row I get for saying too much today. So,
Well, I think
I don't keep it closed, people. I don't keep it shut.
so. You'll let the missus take care of the diary then.
I'll be back. Yeah, I'll be back.
Well, thank you both. So again, I want to thank them for coming on this broadcast, and for the rest of you at home, I hope you're finding this inspiring. Even for those of you who are married, as we move forward with these broadcasts, we'll be touching on particular topics within marriage, even dealing with families and children. But of course, it's still how do we negotiate with the world? And more importantly, how do we maintain this relationship with the Lord? Is a secular life of marriage better than a Christian marriage? These are things, again, we'll compare moving forward. But in the meantime, go and find love in the world. And if you're married, tell them just how much you love them. May God's grace be with you. If you were blessed by this video, why not give it a like? Also, subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon to be notified of future videos.